Welcome back. So let's talk about water use, how and where we use the water, and its scarcity. Last time I checked, we are in a desert and we are in a drought. Water is sometimes hard to come by. We'll kind of talk both about surface and groundwater in this last section. Before we jump into it, though, let me give you another part of the super secret code. It is the number 2. You got me? The number 2. One more time, the number 2. All right. So there's 3 main kind of sectors that uses water. There's domestic. That's like what you use in your home, bathing, washing, cooking, etc. Industrial, water usage in factories. A lot of machinery use water for cooling. And then agriculture, farming. So for the world, the vast majority of water, 70% of water, is used for agriculture, 22% for industry, and only 8% domestic in the homes. So that's overall for the world. That looks a little bit different between kind of lower and middle income countries, developing countries. So 82% agriculture, 10% industry, 8% domestic. It's more agriculture because there's more farming. It's less industry because there are less advanced countries with less factories that make stuff. But as far as high-income countries like the U.S., those numbers really tend to change. Whereas you get 59% of water use is industrial. Again, water in an industrial setting, not only used for making things, but a lot of times used for cooling or lubricating machinery. So 59% of all freshwater use is industry, 30% agriculture, 11% domestic. So the more money you make, the more you tend to waste water at home. So yeah, but overall, if you're looking at the world, still agriculture number 1, industry 2, domestic 3. So what this looks at is focusing on agriculture during irrigation. So this is estimated water loss in agriculture during irrigation. You know, when you have a sprinkler, and you're spraying water on your crops, well, not all of that stuff actually gets soaked into the crops, the stuff themselves. So 15% of that water is just lost as it's being piped from the water source to the farm. It just kind of leaks out. 15% of that is lost. An additional 15% of that is lost as the water, now it's at the farm, is distributed via pipes and hoses. 15% of that water is lost there. 25% of that water is field application loss, meaning you have a sprinkler and you're spraying that stuff on your crops. 25% of that stuff might be evaporating up into the atmosphere or might be running off away from the farm just because it just didn't have time to soak in. So therefore, of all the water a farm uses on average that they're taking from the water source, only 45% of it is effectively used by crops. So not only worldwide is agriculture the biggest use of water, it's also the biggest waster of water. Water is globally hard to come by in a lot of places. So green is little to no water scarcity. Due to climate change, I think this map will only get more orange and red, which is getting into water scarcity. So my suggestion to you would be to move, I don't know, someplace in the green, someplace where water's not an issue. Yellow is approaching physical water scarcity, meaning there's still water there, but it's getting kind of scarce. In the U.S., most of Texas is in that realm. Physical water scarcity. The water is physically just scarce. There's just not a lot of it. In the United States, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, Utah, Nevada. Definitely physically water scarcity. There's just not a lot of it. Economic water scarcity. This red color, there might be water there, but they don't have the money to drill wells or have a water system to somehow utilize that water. So, looking in parts of Africa, Central and South America, and Asia. So again, there might be water there, but they just don't have the money to somehow transport it and utilize it. So water scarcity comes in many different realms. But this map, like I said, is only going to approach more yellow and orange due to climate change. So again, my suggestion is move someplace where there's water. A great example of declining water is Mono Lake, right here in the good old US of A in California. It's that little, you see right in the middle there is that little whitish bluish dot. That is Mono Lake. So let me tell you a little story about that. Before I do, let me give you another part of the super secret code. It is the number 7. You got me? The number 7. So, Mono Lake is in Central California. In 1941, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power built the Los Angeles Aqueduct System, which is over 300 plus miles of aqueducts, these concrete channels that transport water. And they built it 300 miles all the way, 300 plus miles all the way to Mono Lake. So LA is kind of down in this region here. Maybe down in this region here, I think. Yeah, over here somewhere. So they built a pipe 300 miles this way just to get the water that feeds into Mono Lake. Mono Lake itself is salt water, but the water rushing off the Sierra Nevada mountains here is fresh. So what LA did is intercepted 4 of those creeks that fed into the lake and diverted that fresh water to Los Angeles, which is again all the way down there. That was in 1941. About 50 years later, by 1990, the lake had dropped 45 feet and lost half of its volume. That endangered many bird and fish species that call Mono Lake home. So here is Mono Lake. So here is the original shoreline, and you can see how Mono Lake has retreated. So again, Mono Lake itself is brackish. It's salty, but the creeks running into it off of the mountains, those are freshwater. So these 4 creeks, the Lee Vining, Walker, Parker, and Rush Creek, is what Los Angeles kind of stuck their aqueducts in. And instead of that water going to the lake, it's going down to Los Angeles via the Los Angeles Aqueduct. So this is something I just totally don't get. So you get fresh water from the Mono Lake area going to Los Angeles. And you also get water from up near Sacramento. You get water from the Colorado River. LA, I'm talking to you. LA, if you have this many issues with water, maybe you should just not be a town. Maybe you should just not be a thing. If you can't sustain yourself on the water you have, maybe you shouldn't be a thing. Fun fact. So in any case, without this water, though, Los Angeles would have never become the large city that it did, and it helped to spur an economy that today rivals that of many nations. The economy of California, and even the economy of LA itself, is more than most nations on the earth. Up through 2021, Mono Lake, those 4 creeks that they intercepted, is still supplying 29% of the water for the 4 million people in the Los Angeles area. So that's an example of how we're using water badly in the U.S. What about around the world? So for agricultural purposes, there is a body of water called the Aral Sea. It's between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. It's kind of this lake was in these former Soviet Union countries between Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. The water was used for agriculture. So the Soviet Union was not only Russia, but a number of other countries. So the Soviet Union oversaw a large swath of land, so they needed to feed all these people. So they used the Aral Sea for agricultural purposes. So they pretty much used so much water. It's from 1989 to 2008. You can see the difference. It was once the world's 4th largest lake and is now 90% dried up. Yeah, and that's almost all of that is due to agriculture. So here are some photos of the Aral Sea. Where once ships patrolled and fished, they're now just sitting on dry land. Kind of eerie to think about. Another example of domestic water use, a little bit closer to home, here in Arizona, is just over in Mesa. I came across this article a little while ago. So Cannon Beach is a planned 37-acre project that includes a 3.3-acre surf wave lagoon. So it's going to include hotels and shops and all kinds of fun stuff. But it's also going to have a very large wave pool. It's going to be used mostly for surfing in Arizona. And they said this is because there's been a lot of surfers who've relocated to Arizona, but still yearn for that beach. So they're going to make this giant wave pool. If you really want to surf that much, how about this? Don't move to Arizona. That's like saying, well, I really want to ski, but I'm going to move to, the Sahara Desert. That's not. There's no snow, so in any case, it was scheduled to open in May of 2022, but I was looking for any recent updates, and it doesn't seem. It seems like it's a little bit stalled. I think it's still in the plans, but I don't think they've gotten started yet. Sure, something like this is cool. It's radical, dude, like as the surfers say, but is it sustainable? I mean, because after all, we live in a desert. So think about how much of that water evaporates away. It's a lot of fresh water to use for a few surfers. So here's an artist rendition of what that area might look like. Other evidence of water scarcity. Declining Lake Powell levels prompt Colorado River states to form a new plan. Lake Mead's water level drops to lowest point in history. So Lake Mead is the body of water behind the Hoover Dam, which I think is what we see here. No, I think that's this is. Oh no, that is the Hoover Dam, I believe. So in any case, the Colorado River, it's used some for domestic processes, but a lot of that Colorado River water is used for agriculture. And so because of the mega drought that's existed in Arizona for the past 20 years, there's less water going into the Colorado River, therefore there's less water behind these dams. We're using it faster than it's being replenished, and the water in the Colorado River and Lake Mead behind the Hoover Dam, as well as the other lake up near Page, both these things are lowering. Now, these dams also generate hydroelectric power, and the less water that's behind them, the less force of water that rushes through the dam to generate electricity. So if the lakes drop too low, too little water, you can't generate electricity either. So there's a number of issues going on here. So again, Lake Mead is dammed up, Colorado River behind the Hoover Dam. Sorry, Lake Powell is dammed up just outside of Page, Arizona, both along the Colorado River, and both of these are on the decline. Another interesting thing I came across, since water is so scarce, Arizona state legislator proposes pumping Mississippi River water to help with the drought. I don't know if you know where the Mississippi River is, but it is nowhere close to Arizona. Now, this is just a proposal. It's not a real plan yet, but you never know. So what they're proposing is creating a pipeline at the Mississippi River, at this specific location between Iowa and Illinois, and creating a pipe and piping it all the way to the Colorado River. Again, Arizona, now I'm talking to you. If water is such an issue that you got to pump it in from more than halfway around the country, you got some issues. You got some problems. Maybe Arizona ain't the best place to live. Just saying, that's all I'm saying. Well, that brings us to the end. Before we go, let me give you one more part of the super secret code. It is the number 4. You got me? The number 4. One more time, the number 4. That's it. That's all I got to say. Last word. Don't live in Arizona? We're going to run out of water. Have a good one. Until next time.